Ok. Vale, perfecto, perfecto. Buenos días, ¿cómo están todos?
Muy bien.
Muy
Muy
bien.
¿Están bien? Ok.
Está bien.
Está
Feliz
bien.
lunes, feliz lunes. Espero que todo vaya bien con ustedes. I hope everything is going well with you guys. Quick reminder, next week is our last session for spring. So we
Okay.
do have one more class, and then we've got, excuse me, pardon, then we have a month off.
Okay.
But we do have one more class for spring, and I believe Memorial Day is a little bit early this year. That's why, I would think we would have two more sessions, but I think the way Memorial Day falls, that's why next week is the last.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks to me on the calendar like, wow, May 20th and 22nd looks awfully like, yikes. That looks like early, but it's the way that Memorial Day falls on the calendar this year. Okay. Bien.
Marilyn, may I ask you a question?
Absolutamente. Sí, sí, sí.
Okay, if your classes start in July, when do we sign up for them?
Oh, that is a very good question. I am not clear on that. I would say sign up now because
Okay.
generally they start the clock ticking on their
Okay.
schedule, which means they're anticipating starting in June. I'll see if I can get somebody to answer
Okay.
that
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
I have
So,
been
And
able, I signed up already.
yeah, I noticed your name
oh, it's
wasn't on the
there.
list.
It's there to sign up
Yeah.
for then
It's
in
there to
July.
sign up. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Registration
Got it.
is open. It's
It's
there to
open
sign
in
up.
there. Okay.
They always say they cancel if they don't have enough people the week before. So are they counting that from the week before first week of June, or are they counting that like
Mhm.
when everything else
Mm.
starts? Or see, there's my question. Or do they count it from mine start in
Or just
July?
sign
And
up.
yeah, and yeah. So I
Okay.
will try to get somebody to answer that
That's all right.
question
We'll just sign up.
of, when my clock starts ticking versus what they do for everybody else.
Okay.
Um, Gracias. Thank you, Karen. Muchas
You're
gracias.
welcome.
That is a very good question. Okay. Entonces, vamos a hablar del vídeo video de audio comprensión. We're going to do the listening comprehension video to see if you have any questions of
Okay.
what was discussed in there. The general topic was places that look European, but they're not.
They're not.
and, and why that is. And you
So,
may
so
wonder, one of the places she talked about, she was talking about, Portugal and Spain, Portugal and
right.
Spain.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
reason there was a flip-flop with the Portugal-Spain thing is anytime you get into that north central area, so you've got Brazil, you've got Uruguay, Paraguay. So any player in that circle, if you had like a Venn diagram,
Mhm.
although all those border areas that border on Uruguay, Paraguay, and Brazil, those areas were all in dispute in the early colonization era.
Okay.
There was big competition between Paraguay, or not Paraguay, between Portugal,
So,
España. Spain and Portugal had a big rivalry on colonization in
Right.
the South American continent to the point where they said, "Hey, Pope, make a decision."
oh,
One of the very, very ancient predecessors of our present Pope Leo said, I get to divide because you guys asked,
oh,
because you guys are fighting. I don't like it that you're fighting. Also, do know, of course, there was this complicated both intermarriage, but yeah, separation of the two crowns of the kingdoms
mhm.
of Portugal and Spain. At one point they were united, then they separated. You got all this kerfuffle of politics. And there was dividing line made, a papal decree of any place east of this line it goes to Portugal. Anything west of this line, west and south, goes to España, Spain. So that is why Brazil speaks Portuguese, and yeah. So anytime you get those ports that get near that dividing line, the early colonization flip-flop between countries.
Okay.
Es porque. Okay.
So Marilyn, where was the woman from? Is she from Argentina?
She's
Who
from
did that?
Argentina. That's why she's got the zh.
Shushes, yeah. I picked
Yeah.
up on the word street, calles.
Calle,
She says caches.
calle. Yeah,
Calle,
okay.
yeah.
Now, and a good thing to know with Argentina, the people who have the really strong zh. By the way, Paraguay and Uruguay have the real strong zh. And los porteños, the people from Buenos Aires, have a strong zh. When you go interior into the west part of Argentina, you get away a little from that zh thing, that really strong dialect accent there. But all the porteños have the strong calle, ja. Yeah. Maravilla, instead of maravilla, maravilla. So that is a dominant feature of the porteño, el acento porteño, the Buenos Aires accent. Okay. Also the lilt. You have many things going on in Argentina. A whole lot of immigration from places like Italy. So you get much more of an Italian-like lilt with
Okay.
many Argentine accents because of the big influence of Italian immigration.
Well, the fascists.
Interestingly, the German immigration with Argentina did not have a linguistic sort of factor somehow.
Right.
Uh,
They were outnumbered.
yeah, I don't know. No lo sé. Quiero saber, I do want to know, and she does show, a lot of these places sure do look, they belong in Switzerland or Spain or, yeah, different places. It's the architecture, it's all Oktoberfest. There you go, Alemanes. There's your German influence with that. Pero quiero saber, I do want to know if you had any questions on vocabulary she used, structures she
No.
used, or anything like that. Es fácil de entender, ¿no? Easy to understand. Las ideas generales.
Watching the video made me want to go to some of those places, though, I have to say.
Yeah. And if you go into the Patagonia area, which is a geographic area that is shared by Chile and Argentina on their border, which is way south, it looks very like being in the Alps kind of thing. You have very tall mountains, a lot of snow-capped mountains, um, um, and, well, exotic animals that would not be in the Alps because it's South America. But yeah, pingüinos,
Alpacas and
penguins.
stuff, right?
Yeah. So anyway, of course, anytime you get those geographic differences, you get a lot of interesting stuff going on. Okay, one structure I would point to from that video was there were two phrases that Agustina used to refer to how something looks. How something looks. One little structure is a two-word structure, se ve, se ve. And ve comes from ver, to see. Se ve, and it has to have the se to get this meaning. Se ve doesn't mean it looks at itself. Normally reflexives llamarse, sentarse, levantarse. Normally, se, reflexive verbs often have that meaning of doing something to oneself. And the se ve in this sense does not mean you're looking at yourself. This, although it is reflexive with the se ve, means it looks. Okay, it's one way, one common structure that Spanish uses to say something looks a certain way. So if I were to say to Jean, te ves muy bien, te ves excelente hoy. You look excellent today. Sí.
Thank you.
See, te ves, making it reflexive has the you look or it looks. In this case, it's se ve because she's talking about geographic, like a city or a region, se ve. And the other structure, which is simpler because it's only one word, is the verb parecer, P-A-R-A-C-E-R, parecer. Parece Parece means it seems. Parecer is to seem. Okay? So, parecer, parece muy europeo. It seems very European, very European. See? Cuidado, if you make parecer reflexive, right? Se ve reflexive means it looks. But se parece, if you make parecer reflexive, which you can, if you make parecer reflexive, it means somebody looks like, and then you'll add on somebody else, okay? Por ejemplo, mi hija se parece a mí. My daughter looks like me. When I was younger, cuando era joven. ¿Sí? Bien. Ángela se parece a su hermana. Ángela looks like her sister. So parecerse, when you make it reflexive, changes the meaning of that plain non-reflexive parecer to seem. Okay? Bien. Okay. Ninguna pregunta. No other question on our listening, right? ¿Sí? Correcto. Okay. Vale, entonces, adelante. Let's move forward. I had, and here, I don't know, quizás, maybe you will have some additional questions about this next video. It was our grammar-oriented video. Okay. They had a number of phrases or structures that we're going to look at. Well, structures because sometimes it's not a matter of using one verb. Yeah.
Hey everyone, and welcome back.
The
Second verb is
verbs
to express
were
someone.
tener que or hay que plus an infinitive. Yeah. And tener que and hay que are grouped together because they are they both express obligation. That somebody needs to, must, and they convey a rather strong obligation. The difference being that tener que is conjugated for a human being. So if you're talking to your kid or your grandkid and you say, tienes que acostarte, you've got to go to bed, yeah, because it's their bedtime. Tienes que acostarte. The tienes que indicates, hey, you kid or child, it's your duty. Get yourself in that bed, tuck yourself in. Time to go to sleep. okay? And it puts the onus, it puts the obligation specifically on that person that you conjugate that tener verb for. Whereas hay que is always used as hay que, and the verb I does not change forms. Hay que, with an infinitive, expresses obligation, but on a super general level, meaning anyone in general has to do it. And we would translate it to give that same impersonal meaning. We would have to use an expression in English like one must. But one must in English is super formal. And, you know, unless you got the pinky held out holding the teacup, you're properly drinking your English tea with, the pinky out. I get to saying one must is a rather formal expression in American English. We know what it means, but we seldom use it when we're chit-chatting with the guys and gals next door. But it does, I does not put the obligation on any one human being. It just means anyone in general. Yeah, see? Okay, so number of structures. The next structure they looked over was ir plus a plus infinitive. That one probably needs less explanation because it is just, we conjugate ir. We just need to remember that little word a. Okay. We need to remember the little word a, just like tener had to have que, ir needs that word a. There is no why. There is no because. It just is what they do in Spanish. And that says that something will happen. It is what we use to talk about conversationally speaking, something that will happen in the future. The next one started to get out of the verb plus infinitive, and it moves in a little bit different direction. Seguir or continuar plus a gerund. It's still two verbs working together, but it is, instead of having an infinitive, tener que, tengo que ir, tengo que estudiar, tengo que llamar, right? Voy a voy a enseñar. I'm going to teach. Vamos a practicar. We are going to practice. Seguir needs a gerund, and the gerund is just a fancy grammar term for ing, right? And that means in Spanish it'll be ando if it comes from an AR verb, or yendo if it comes from an ER-IR verb. And that gerund is kind of a verb form, but it is not a conjugation like tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tienen. It is not a conjugation. It is always the ando, always the yendo, right? And the conjugation of seguir or continuar tells you who that verb or who is doing that action. And the way we express this seguir or continuar is to keep on doing something. That is the most common way, but there is not a way to say keep with with that in Spanish, right? They have to use seguir. Seguir by itself means to continue or to follow, and continuar is just to continue, like it looks like, right? Continuar is a very regular verb. Seguir is a very irregular verb, and we'll take a look at that. Well, actually, we'll take a look at that now. No time like the present. Seguir is a hard verb to conjugate. Okay, we're going to take a look at seguir. And I need to change my screen aspect to make this bigger for those of you who are on a tablet. Okay, so instead of sigo cometer, an infinitive, it's sigo cometiendo. I keep making, oh, and I should have translated that. Sigo, Cometiendo errores means I keep making mistakes.
Should we be seeing words right now?
Oh, you're not? Yes, you should.
We're not.
Vamos a ver. Sorry. Lo siento. I think, you know what? El error es mío.
It's you.
I mean, it's fun to watch you typing, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Aquí. Better.
There we
Mejor,
go.
there we go.
mejor. Okay. Bien. So, sigo cometiendo errores. We can't have an infinitive here. We need to have the ando yendo form. But the cometiendo is the same if I say they keep making mistakes. Siguen cometiendo, it's still cometiendo, right? So the cometiendo is it's standard, it is unchanging, but the seguir verb does change. In my opinion, I think of these two verbs, seguir or continuar. I think seguir is a little more common. That's my experience. I don't know that a grammar instructor would say that formally, but it's just my opinion that seguir is super common in this structure. And it means to keep or keep on, right? To continue doing something, okay? And continuar with estando yendo is just the same structure, but using a slightly different verb. And while continuar is very easy to conjugate, continuo, continúas, continúa, continuamos, continúan. Bien, seguir is very weird. So we're going to take a moment to look at seguir because even though I think this is the more common, it is an E to I stem changer. An E to I stem changer does many weird things in a number of tenses, but that means the e, the letter E, the e in seguir flips from an E to an I in all the conjugations except for nosotros and vosotros. And since we don't use vosotros, it's not a biggie for us, but this one, the nosotros will be. The nosotros goes back to the original se, se of seguir. It keeps se instead of si. But all the other ones become esi because that e in seguir becomes an e letter, okay? So, sigo, I keep on. Sigues, you keep on. Sigue, he or she keeps on. Seguimos, that's where we go back to, it looks exactly like the infinitive, what you think it should do. Seguimos. Seguís for vosotros in Spain. And siguen. Now, the other oddball thing about, well, no, this one is, yes, okay, yeah, this is odd. The other oddball thing is this go form, right? Seguir has a UIR. So there are spelling things that happen. Yeah. Once I have put on an O for the yo form, you know, the only purpose of this letter U is because it is silent in seguir, the infinitive. The only purpose for that U being there is to make the G go into a hard G form, right? So for the yo form, I no longer need the U because the putting G next to an O makes the G into a G hard G sound. I no longer need the U to stand in there and make it a hard G sound. But that U needs to come back when I do the ES because GE together is ge, not ge, right? And to get into sigues or sigue or siguen, that you from the infinitive needs to come back. We don't, this is one of those isolated, little more unusual situations where that letter goes silent. Very few silent letters, right? but we need to spell it that way to get to the sound of sigues, sigue, siguen. Okay, so the conjugations of seguir in present are very, very odd. They have a stem change, and they go from go back to gu, back to gu. Yeah, you have all those oddball things. Seguir, however, is a great, even though this is a hard one to conjugate, it is a great verb to know because it is a super common verb for Spanish speakers to use. It is also used a lot if I take out the ando yendo part. Seguir is used when people are giving you directions on how to get somewhere or where to drive or where to walk. Okay, because they tell you to keep going straight. Yeah, keep going straight is sigue or siga, if it's a command, siga recto, siga derecho, go straight. Okay, or to keep on for 3 blocks, if they tell you how far, you keep going before you have a turn. It's seguir. So seguir is used for giving directions, a super lot. So it's a great verb to know, despite the fact that it is a real oddball to conjugate. Okay. Uh, E to I stem changes are just weird. Okay. So keeping in the theme of a verb plus ando yendo instead of a verb plus an infinitive, we move from seguir or continuar, because they can carry the same meaning in that structure, to llevar with an ando yendo. This is one of those structures that a native speaker will be extremely impressed with your skills if you can use this, because this is what they typically use to say somebody has been doing whatever, has been cooking, has been reading, has been listening to, whatever they've been doing for a chunk of time, right? The chunk of time or the period of time is what goes in the middle here with the time part, right? So if you translate this literally, what it winds up meaning is somebody carries on for a chunk of time doing something. And the doing is an ing, an ando yendo, not an infinitive. So just like with seguir, we don't use an infinitive here. We use an ando or a yendo. But we've got all these extra words here in English, has been, which aren't needed, are not used in the structure in Spanish. It's llevar, a chunk of time, however long that's been going on, and the ando yendo. So that's how we get to llevo 30 minutos regando. Regando means watering. Regar is to give water, like through a hose or a jar, if or a watering can, whatever you use to water, right? Regar is to water something, a plant, a tree, a bush. Llevo 30 minutos regando las plantas. I've been watering my plants for 30 minutes. Okay. Bien. So we've got this and this that use the ando and yendo, not the infinitive. All right. This in the same way is using an ando yendo, but this one is in the past because it doesn't make sense to have it in the future. So just know that this se quedó does not mean yo doing it. Yeah. If I get time at the end of class, I will explain what this is like. I did not ask you to do examples. This does not make sense in the present because it's used, for example, to say things like, I wound up falling asleep on the sofa. You know those times when you watch the movie, oh, it turns out to be a longer movie than you anticipated, or it's later in the night, and you think you're going to make it to the end of the movie and you don't, and you wind up falling asleep. That's the verb they use. Okay. And it doesn't make any sense in the present. So that requires past. You guys don't all know the past, or maybe don't aren't super comfortable with it. So we'll come back to that later. But again, it will use an ing, yeah, for that idea. So if we get time, we'll come back to that in a bit.
Marilyn,
Sí.
Marilyn, can I back you up to Yevar for a second?
Sí, 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 señor. Sí, señor.
So, I guess I'm wondering about the sequencing there where you've written out the Yevar and then the time frame and then the Ando,
Okay.
Yendo. And the reason I'm wondering is I was preparing one and I was checking on I guess it's Google and it flipped that. It did the endo, it did the gerund before the time.
And then it did, okay. So it said, llevo regando 30 minutos instead of llevo
Well, in
30
that
minutos.
example, yeah, my example, I have been going for 10 years. So it did um, llevar yendo 10 años.
Okay. Can you flip the order of the words and move that time chunk to the end? You can. You can. I will go out on a limb and say, uh, putting the time chunk where you see it on my screen is perhaps a bit more common, but there is some flexibility with that. You do hear people sometimes putting it as llevar, the ando or yendo, and then the time. It is permissible. It is okay to do that. I think it is a little more common to have the word order like this. Why does Google do that? Because their AI model. And you know what? Honestly, I sometimes wonder with Google questions, sometimes I wonder if they look at a pattern and maybe they have more, maybe their AI picks things from an English perspective, from the examples it's seen. It only knows what it's been taught. I can't say absolutely if that is the case, but I think it's a little more common to have the time in that order.
Yeah. And
However, you
it
do have flexibility, and you would be totally understood if you flip the order.
yeah, the English speaker in me likes it the other way, where it's, I have been
Been
doing for
doing,
10 years.
I've been waiting here for an hour. Yeah, and the time comes last in English. And
Right.
that's why I think I kind of suspect that the AI models in Google sometimes, whatever they're trained on, I think they see that pattern a little more, maybe because, anyway, it's okay to do, but I think it's a little more common to have it in the middle. And it's always taught that way. So the fact to me that when it's presented to a student, it's always presented in that order tells me that's a little more common. I mean, that's what I'm used to hearing more people
Yeah.
use when they speak.
Okay.
But you can flip the order. There is some flexibility. So that is a super good question. Excelente. Okay. Vamos. Sigamos. Let's keep going. Okay. Whoop, perdón. Oh, okay. They did cover in the video the very basic progressive tense, which is not tough. We've seen that before. Estar with an ando, yendo is, something that people learn relatively early in their Spanish progress. And estar plus an ando yendo means that somebody's doing something now, but it really is used to talk about things happening in real time as we speak. Okay. English does not always do that, right? English has a habit of using ing sometimes to talk about things that are, let's say, near future. Okay. So if I tell you, well, I'm going to physical therapy, uh, I cannot, if I'm talking to you right now, say that as estoy yendo or estoy manejando a la oficina de terapia because I am not doing it right now. In English, I could say, I'm going to physical therapy, and I'm not doing it immediately, but that I will be soon. Okay. But that distinction, time wise, is important to know. We only use this for things that are going on in real time as we are speaking. Okay. That's generally not a challenging one for people to use because they've seen that pattern before. Okay. Here is a pattern that is tough for English speakers. And I think it is tough for English speakers because of that first word, the verb volver. Volver, which by the way, are English words revolve and evolve and probably devolution or okay, anything with the VOLV. We have English words that come from the French, from the Latin. Yeah, that's a Latin thing. Volver by itself, meaning not with the little preposition and an infinitive tagged on. Volver used by itself means to return or to come back to a place. Okay? And because we first learn that verb in that context, it tends for English speakers to be kind of tough to move that into a different meaning because volver a in an infinitive means to do something, and I'm sorry, I need one more word here, to do something again, right? And that again part is like, wow, volver a, how do you get to again? Well, because if you return to doing something, right? If you do something again, you are coming back to do that thing one more time. I think that's why they use that. But this one tends to be a little bit of a struggle for people to string together. And it isn't hard to use, but it it does carry the idea of again. It never uses the word again. It is the verb combination that does that, right? So, vuelvo a leer las instrucciones. I'm reading the instructions again. Volvemos a, and it's an UE stem change, right? So you need to remember that. Volvemos a viajar a Payson este verano. We are traveling to Payson again this summer. Okay. Volvemos a viajar, right? And we think of again as otra vez, or maybe the word combination, the two word combination of de nuevo. Those also mean again, but this verb structure to say again is super, super common for native speakers. So it's a great one to know. Okay. This one, in terms of meaning, is easier to understand. People who are English speakers tend to not have any struggle with figuring it out. It does need the little word a, just like ir needs the little word a, just like volver needs the little word a. Empezar or comenzar, I do think empezar is a little more common. I would get used to empezar. If you have to pick one or the other, I would pick empezar because that is what you hear people saying, I think more commonly, using in speech more commonly than comenzar. It is an IE stem changer, so not too hard. Instead of empiezo for yo, it's empiezo. And comenzar has the same kind of stem change. Instead of comenzo, comienzo, right? English speakers maybe favor that verb comenzar because it's like commence, which means something is beginning or starting. But in point of fact, I think empezar is the better one for you to memorize, right? And it means you are starting or beginning to do something. Empiezo a armar la silla. Oh boy, I got my brain on this new chair I've got. I had to, I had to set up. I had to assemble a chair this last weekend. Empiezo a armar. I'm starting to assemble the chair. Yeah. So that is another verb combination. But notice here we got away from the ando yendo. We go back to the infinitive, right? Here we go away from the ando yendo. We go back to the infinitive. So some of these combinations in the video were with an infinitive. Some were with ando yendo. And this is another one that we're going to take hopefully a very good look at today. Dejar plus de and an infinitive. And that little word de is important. These little words like a or de or en or con are called prepositions. And you just need to get used to sometimes a verb uses a particular preposition. Ir uses a. Volver uses a. Empezar uses a. Comenzar uses a. But, tener uses que. It just uses that. And dejar will use de, right? Dejar is used in a lot of contexts, but this is one context we're going to look at, right? Dejar by itself, without the de, without an infinitive. Dejar by itself means either to allow or like permit something, or more commonly by itself, to leave something behind, right? To leave something behind in your car, to leave a tip behind at the table in a restaurant. Yeah. So dejar gets twists in meaning depending on how you combine it with other words. And this combination of dejar de means to stop, which is kind of logical because if you leave something behind, when you leave off doing something, it means you've stopped doing that thing. But here we can't use the ando yendo, right? English, look, does use the ando yendo, the ing. English does use the ing, but I can't use the ing, ando yendo, with this. I need to use the infinitive, okay? So, los chicos dejan de gritar, the kids stop yelling, okay? Los chicos dejan de gritar. Or if you give it as a command, like you say to your kid or grandkid, stop playing video games, is deja de jugar videojuegos. Deja de jugar. Stop playing. And even though in English we use an ing, we don't use an ing here. It needs to stay as an infinitive. Okay? Bien? Vale? And we're going to do one more. And this last one as a review of the video is, again, like dejar de, this is acabar de. This can be handy because it uses only present. It uses only presente, present tense. Acabar, you don't have to know any other tense, just and it's very regular, by the way, a very regular verb. Acabo, acabas, acaba, acabamos, acaban. It's a very regular AR verb. But acabar means to end or finish, and acabar de means to have just done something. So if you want to say something is in the past and it's really over with, but you don't know how to conjugate in past tense, this is a kind of a workaround, let's say. Acabar de with an infinitive means to have just done. So, technically, it's not a perfect workaround because it's not just he did it, he drove, he spoke, he wrote. It's not past tense, but it means something was done just recently. It just finished off being done. Okay, so it's kind of like a recent past. So you have to be a little careful. But if you can't remember past and you want to convey the idea of this is over with, this acabar de definitely means not doing it right now anymore. Even though I'm using present tense to use it, it's over with. It's done. Yeah, that you just finished off doing that. Okay, bien, good for a overview.
Sí.
And we're going to hopefully you'll have some examples of some of these verbs. And these are verbs that you hear quite a lot conversationally. Okay, vamos a empezar. Vamos a empezar. We're going to begin. Vamos a empezar aquí con las primeras combinaciones, the first combinations, tener que and hay que. A couple of examples with these two. Okay, the examples I had were mis hijos tienen que organizar sus cuartos. That one is telling specifically who has to do it. Yeah. But if I just want to mean anybody in general, I don't need to have a tener que. I can have an hay que. If I want to talk about anybody in the general population, hay que observar los pasos de la receta. You have to, anybody who makes this recipe, anybody at all, not just you, has to observe the steps, watch for the steps, right? Or hay que manejar con cuidado. You have to drive carefully. You, meaning the everyman, you. Okay? So tener que and hay que, conveniently, they both use que. Anybody got some examples for us here?
I do.
Okay, bien, Karen.
Okay. Mi hija tiene que limpiar su habitación.
Bien, perfecto. Tiene que limpiar su habitación. Has to clean her room. Bien, me gusta. Hay otro ejemplo con hay que. Do you have an hay que example?
I do. Hay que ir a la tienda.
Hay que ir a la tienda. You got to go to the store. Anybody's got to go to the store. Hey, you want to fill the fridge? Got to go to the store. Anybody, right? Sí, bien.
Sí.
Bueno, hiciste bien. Ok, Andrés, continúa, por favor.
Um, tengo que beber mucha agua.
Bien, tengo que beber mucha agua, sí.
Mhm.
I have to do this. Do you have an hay que example?
Yes, ma'am. Hay que pagar impuestos.
Okay, I, and make sure you pronounce that as I.
Hay,
Okay, not an A, but an I.
hay que pagar impuestos.
Okay,
Impuestos.
okay, bien, bien. Hay que, one has to, right? Any
Okay.
person
Okay.
has to. Bien. Gracias, muchas gracias. ¿Quién más? Who else has some examples for tener que or hay que? ¿Alguien? Anybody? Tener que. Bueno,
My-
Marcos.
I have two for tener care, but I made up for that without not having one for I care.
Okay.
There you go.
Tengo que comprar mi boleto de avión.
Sí, tengo que comprar mi boleto. I gotta buy my ticket. Yeah. And that's on me. It's not everybody isn't buying a ticket. It's me. Okay.
Mm.
Bien.
And tenemos que llamar a nuestra amiga en Atlanta.
Bien. Excelente, excelente. Bien. Bueno, okay. And another hay que that would be really general might be something like Cuando paseamos con el perro, when we walk the dog. Cuando paseamos, cuando, I'll make it more very like super across the board, impersonal. Cuando se pasea, when one walks, when anybody walks their dog, all people who walk dogs. Cuando se pasea, ¿sí? Con el perro, hay que recoger la caca del perrito. You got to pick up your doggy's poop. Okay. Meaning everybody ought to do that. Everybody ought to do that. See? Bien. Excelente. Bueno, ¿quién más? Who else has tener que and hay que example? Jean, you want to go?
I have one. I had an
Okay.
IK. So my thought was to say IK conducir pasado el accidente. I don't know what is la or el. Like you have to drive slowly past an accident
Oh, okay.
is
Okay.
what I was thinking.
Sí. Hay que conducir. Well, there are different ways you might say it. You might say lentamente
Lentamente.
or con cuidado.
That's what I was going to use, lentamente, but I didn't know if that went right after conducir or after.
And you
Right.
might say al lado del accidente, along the side. See?
Del
Probably not
accidente.
pasar or pasado, past the accident.
Not
Yeah,
past. Okay.
past could be the word pasado, but not in this context. Past
Okay.
the accident, alrededor, around, or al lado del accidente. Alrededor would mean around. So there are different, you know,
Yeah.
or a la izquierda, maybe you got to go to the left, or a la
A
derecha,
la
right?
derecha.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah. Sí, bien. ¿Y qué más? What else? Oh, do you have another example with tener, Jean, or no?
No, I don't have one. Sorry. I just had that
Okay,
IK one.
no, está
Yep.
bien. That's okay. That's okay. And remember, these are obligation things. So keep in mind that tener que is kind of stronger because it is conjugated for a human being. And then you're putting the responsibility on somebody. So if you want to put that responsibility on
Tener
your
que,
kids,
hay
Could
que.
yeah, tener que is a stronger way of conveying that.
could I say tengo que pagar el check or
Oh,
something?
tengo que
Like I have
pagar con cheque, tengo que
concha.
pagar la cuenta,
Yeah, like
the check, sí.
yeah.
With a check is con un cheque, but the
Un
check at
cheque.
the restaurant is la
La-
cuenta, right?
La cuenta. Yeah.
Tengo que pagar la cuenta, tengo que pagar la cuenta. Sí, bien, excelente, sí. Ah, eso es, sí, exactamente. So, there's a very subtle difference. There's a very subtle difference between saying to your kids, chicos, ustedes tienen que organizar la casa. You need to tidy up the house. Versus, hay que organizar la casa. Hay que is a little more soft pedal. I'm not saying exactly who has to do it, but it's got to get done. Yeah, hay que is a little less in your face. But if you want to make it strong, is tener que. Bien, okay. Bueno, hay otros ejemplos con tener que, hay que. Other examples of tener que or hay que.
No.
¿Nada? Adelante. Okay. Sigamos. Let's keep going. Sigamos. Let's keep going on. Okay. Ir a. Fácil, fácil. Easy one, easy one. Easy peasy one. Right? Two examples of what anybody is going to do. And this one is always personalized. Ir gets conjugated for whoever is going to do it, right? Two examples of what someone is is, of someone is, examples of is or is not. I'm sorry, I should have put is or is not. Right, we can use that in an affirmative sense. We can use it in a negative sense. That's all I meant by that. Bien, ir a. Okay. ¿Quién tiene un ejemplo? Who's got an example for us here?
I
Ir.
do.
Easy one. Karen, bien.
Okay. Mi hermoso va a viajar.
Va a viajar. Gonna travel. Bien, sí. Okay, otro ejemplo.
I have a couple. Voy a montar mi bicicleta.
Voy a montar en bicicleta. Sí, sí.
And
Gonna
then,
ride my bike.
yeah, and then a negative one I had, no voy a estudiar la semana próxima.
Okay, sí.
Next week I'm not going to study.
La próxima semana. La
La próxima semana. Yeah.
La próxima semana. Yeah. So it won't be semana próxima. That one, the word order is fixed. Okay. And there's a reason for that.
Isn't it semana pasada for last week?
It is.
That's
But
why I
it's
did it.
próxima semana. Próxima,
Okay.
La próxima semana, next week, the próxima always comes first. And why is it not with pasado? I cannot give you a good reason, but it is always la próxima semana. El
Okay.
próximo año, next year. El próximo mes, the next month. See, it is just that way. So anyway, bien. Okay, I guess I can give you a reason. Unlike pasado, past, próximo talks about order. Like a numerical order almost, yeah? And when you're talking about anything in order, and that goes for words like próximo or words like primero, first, or segundo, second, or tercero, a numbered order,
Thing
it always comes in front of the
before
noun.
the noun.
Yeah,
Okay.
it never follows, okay? So, la primera vez, the first time, right? Okay, la próxima vez, the next time. Next is still talking about the order, even though it doesn't have a number affixed to it, and that would be why. Okay. Bien. Otro ejemplo, Jean. Do you have another example?
I do. Yeah, I have. So I have a negative. I have a mi hijo no va. No, sorry. Mi hijo no va a cantar un solo en el concierto.
No va a contar, o no va a cantar, no va a cantar
Cantar,
un solo.
yeah. Un solo en el concierto. Yep.
Bien, sí, ok. Va a cantar en el coro, in the chorus. Va a
Sí.
cantar con el grupo.
Yeah. How do you
Pero
spell
no-
coro? How do you
Coro,
spell coro?
C-O-R-O, coro.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Coro is just a choral group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Coro.
choir.
Yeah.
El coro.
Coro.
Okay.
Got it.
Bien. Bien. If a kid is in Glee Club, it's called coro. Coro, yeah, would be a Glee Club used as a noun. Sí, por ejemplo, no voy a montar en bicicleta por el problema con la espalda.
La
Sí,
espalda, sí.
por eso, for that reason. Bien. Ok. Buenos ejemplos, buenos ejemplos. Otros ejemplos. Andrés.
Voy a hacer ejercicio hoy.
Okay. And let's get a nice hacer. Hacer.
Hacer.
Sí. Voy a hacer, and you know what? When you string those together, there should be no pause. When you hear somebody say that phrase, it may be tough for you to pick it up listening to it because it's going to sound like this. Voy a hacer.
What is that?
Voy a
Okay.
hacer. As a matter of
Well, this
fact, I'm going to flip to the screen to show you something of why we have to listen for the sequences and why it can be confusing. Okay. The reason often we have a hard time understanding people when we listen to native speakers is because we we kind of know how we anticipate that sound is going to come out, and sometimes it doesn't come out the way we anticipate, or they string the words together in a certain way. So let's look at this. And I'm sorry because I have this, it's going to underline for me. I can't change it. Okay, voy a hacer ejercicio. And that ejercicio word is a tough one to pronounce. Ejercicio. Voy a hacer ejercicio. It will not sound like voy a hacer. Yeah. Voy a hacer. There will be no pause. They're going to go straight from the a to the hacer. And because the H is silent, it's two a sounds next to each other. And that means you're just going to have a prolonged a sound. Instead of voy a hacer, it'll be voy a hacer. Voy a hacer ejercicio. And the reason somebody knows, well, hacer ejercicio means to exercise, right? But I'm going to show you another phrase, which is going to sound almost the same, but it means something completely different. But phonetically, you'll see why this happens. Okay. Voy a hacer ejercicio. Sounds like the beginning of this. Oh, you know what? I'll make it an easier word, English word. Voy a ser el líder del grupo. Voy a ser ejercicio. Voy a ser el líder del grupo. This voy a ser sounds almost exactly like voy a hacer. But this is just ser and this is hacer. But this hacer and the hacer are very, I'm going to be the leader's group. I'm going to be the group leader. Yeah. Versus I'm going to exercise. You have to listen for how all the words string together to know, oh, you know what? This verb here they're using is not the same verb as this, but the way they are strung together, they will sound similar. That makes sense? So always listen for how those words combine. Otro ejemplo. Do you have another example, Andres?
Yes.
Okay.
No voy a beber vino hoy.
Okay. Bien. Negativo, right? We can easily, often we want to say what you're not going to do almost as frequently as what you are going to do. Okay. Bien. Otros ejemplos. ¿Alguien más? Anybody else? Ir a infinitive. Marcos, dinos.
Mi esposa va a ir de compras esta tarde.
Mi esposa va a ir de compras. She's going to go shopping. Va a ir de compras. And that ir de compras is exactly right. It needs to be ir de compras. Go shopping. Va a ir de compras. She's going to go shopping. Bien. Vale.
Marilyn, could you say voy a comprar? I'm going to buy.
Voy a comprar. Is close. So it means I'm going to buy.
Like
So
I'm going
you know
to go
what?
buy food or something.
The connotation is going to be that, you know what, there's probably a specific item or set of items if you're using comprar. Ir de compras is go shopping, which might mean that you just wind up looking. Which winds up you're looking at a lot of stuff, and you're going to leave some stuff to the side. You are going to purchase other things, but it is more general. You have a set of purchases to make with a lot of stuff. Ir de compras, yeah? Or you have a search. Whereas comprar means, there's a specific item you have in mind. Bien, buena pregunta, gracias. Y Marcos, otro ejemplo, Marcos.
Sí. Hoy no voy a pagar las facturas.
Okay, no voy a pagar las facturas. I'm not paying any bills, yeah? Not going to pay any bills today, see? No tengo la fecha límite. I don't have a due date on my bills. Entonces, no voy a pagar las facturas. Muy lógico. Bien, bien. Bueno, excelente. Más ejemplos con ir a, infinitivo, ir a. Anybody else? ¿Alguien más? No? Ok, bien. Adelante. Moving on. Okay, here's where we're going to go to a shift, and I'm going to show you the screen again because of two things. Instead of the infinitive, we're going to plug in, instead of ar, ir, and infinitive, we're going to be plugging in an ando or a yendo, right? I hope you feel comfortable using a seguir. The other reason I'm showing you this is that, again, seguir has oddball conjugations, but it's super good to get this hard, admittedly hard verb, because it's so irregular, to get used to using it. Seguir. Sigo, sigues, sigue, seguimos, siguen, right? To keep doing something. Bien. If you wanted to use continuar, it's not a cheat, but it's not a cheat, but it's okay because it conveys the meaning of to keep, meaning somebody is continuing doing something. Okay? Bien. Hay unos ejemplos con seguir o continuar y ando yendo. Any examples with that? That's a harder one to use than the other.
I had one.
Okay.
I can try. Él sigue corriendo entrenar para el maratón.
Bien. Sigue
He's continuing, yeah.
corriendo para
He's continuing to run
entrenarse, para
to train.
entrenarse, to
Oh,
train
para
people.
entrenarse. Okay.
Sí, para entrenarse en el maratón. Sí, sí.
Mhm.
He keeps on practicing and he's got a reason. The reason is that he's working towards the marathon. But that's definitely something that people are on a roll with because they have to do it continually. Okay. Vale, sí.
And then I just had one more.
Bien.
Yo sigo practicando el piano.
Sigo practicando. I keep on practicing. Eso. Sí. Muy bien.
Yeah.
Sí.
Todos los días.
Sí, sí. Sigo escuchando, sigo escuchando ah, canciones canciones de los 70. I keep on listening to songs from the 70s. If you go back to a certain decade of your life or a certain period of your life. Bien. Okay. Bueno, otros ejemplos. Other examples with seguir and ando yendo or continuar. Andrés.
Voy a continuar con la remodelación.
Okay. Voy a continuar. I'm going to continue.
Mhm.
Remodeling?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take the voy a out. So let's tweak that a little bit. So
Okay.
first of all, benefit number one, we're going to tweak it so that you have to use fewer words. Okay. Second, we're going to follow this pattern, and I'm going to put it up on the screen so it makes it a little bit easier because most of us are visual learners. Okay. And maybe you're not, Andres. I am. I know I am. So we're going to cut it down instead of voy a continuar, right? If you want to use continuar, that's great, right? Instead of seguir, if that's easier for you, that's fine. But we're going to make it, I keep on remodeling, right? Is that the general idea?
Yes.
Okay, so continúo, instead of voy a continuar, it's just continúo. See? Continúo, and you can say reformando, or remodelando. Continúo remodelando. There are two words used for remodeling or like renovating something. Continúo, right? Remodelando, remodelar, or you know what? Let me put it up on the screen to make it easier for you to see. Continúo remodelando. In Spain, you hear a lot of people using, uy, madre, my punctuation always winds up doing some. Remodelando, no L. Remodelando, or continúo reformando. There are two words that people use for remodeling because you're reforming something if you're remodeling it, right? Remodelar is okay, but reformar is also used. Continúo remodelando, continúo reformando. You cut out all the voy a stuff if you do that. Yeah? Bien? Okay. ¿Entiendes? Understand?
Yes.
Okay. Bien.
Yeah.
Hay otro ejemplo. Do you have another example for me or no?
No.
No. Okay. Vale. Otros ejemplos con seguir ando, continuar ando, or yendo. Any other examples with those? Marcos, bien.
Actually, just want to check something.
Mhm.
So, Sam, are you awake? I'm gonna bug you on this one.
Wait, wait.
So if I wanted to ask Sam if he's going to be continuing something,
Sure.
I would just address it as using the to form. So like
Sí,
Sam,
exacto.
¿sigues estudiando español este verano?
Sí,
Sí, sigo estudiando. Bien. Oh, you know what? To make a short response, sí, sigo.
sigo. Okay.
Bien. Perfecto, perfecto. Sí. And exactly, you want to know if your neighbor is still doing something, right? Are you still fixing your car? You notice he's had the hood up. Yeah, he's been doing stuff. Oye, José, hey, oye, José, ¿sigues reparando ese carro? ¿Sigues o continúas arreglando ese carro? ¿Sí? ¿Bien? Ok. Sí, bien. If you want to know if somebody is still working at the same company, here's something we ask people a lot. Hey, is your kid still working for blah, blah, blah? Hey, is your husband or wife still working at blah, blah? Still means they are keeping on doing it, right? So that structure will lend itself. Entonces, por ejemplo, María, ¿sigues trabajando para la misma compañía? Are you still working for the same company? ¿Sí? ¿Sigues trabajando para... ¿Sigues trabajando para Honor Health? ¿Sigues trabajando para Mayo? ¿Sí? Whatever company you want to plug in there. Bien. Bueno, so anytime somebody is still doing something, that is a workable way to structure that. Okay, otro ejemplo, conseguir o continuar. That is a harder one. This is the hardest one out of the group so far.
Can
Hardest
I try
one.
one more example here? Just
Sí,
if I may.
sí.
Leyendo una novela durante 3 horas.
Okay.
Entonces, sigo, right.
Keep
That's a
reading.
question.
Oh,
Yeah,
question.
have you been reading
Okay.
for 3? Yeah,
Sigues leyendo. Are you still reading? You need you need that verb in front of leyendo.
okay,
Okay, you need a verb, either continuar or seguir. You need one of those two, right?
okay,
You could use estás, yeah, but sigues leyendo, sigues leyendo. Are you still reading?
okay,
Or whatever? And you want to plug in a period of time, you can, sí, sí, okay, sí,
okay.
entiendes.
No,
Entiendes.
that's it.
Okay, well, the one thing we want to remember is that the whole reason really we're looking at these is that rather than using just one verb by itself, we have to have a structure that combines at least 2 words, sometimes 3 words. You're stringing together more words rather than using just one verb. So I typically don't use just leyendo, right? Sigues leyendo, continúas leyendo, or estás leyendo, right? You've got to have something in front of the ando yendo part. This by itself, ando yendo, doesn't tell who is doing something. The ando yendo is just the ing part, right? You may in English, sometimes in English, we cut off that first part. Now that I think about it, you know what? You're passing your neighbor in the driveway, right? And just like your quick exchange, hey, going to work, right?
Mhm.
That's an okay question in English, isn't it? You can just you can just say, hey, going to work, and they know what you mean, and they don't think that's weird. So we sometimes cut that off in quick exchanges, but I can't cut that off in Spanish and just have like a leyendo or
Okay,
manejando. Yeah.
okay,
I wouldn't look at the guy in the driveway and say manejando a la oficina, driving to the office. You know, I would really need this so it wouldn't be confusing. Estás manejando. Estás manejando ahorita. You're driving right now. See? Bien?
mhm,
Okay, I can't do that. I can't truncate that or cut that off like I sometimes do in English. Okay. Let's make sure. Boy, we're not going to get through all of these today. We're going to continue some of these next week, but that's okay. I want to take this next one. I'm glad we've got this as the last one. This really deserves some time. This is something that English speakers have a hard time with. And I think, as Marcos brought up, our word order in English is to take that chunk of time and put it at the end. And typically, you're going to hear that chunk of time put right after the llevar verb more frequently. So the word order is different than English. Plus, the other complication we've got is that we know llevar, we know the verb llevar by itself, not in this structure, but by itself. Llevar has a whole bunch of meanings. It can mean to wear clothing. It can mean that you pick something up and you're carrying it. It can mean you are taking an object to somebody's house, office, place of business, right? It can mean you take somebody, you're taking your spouse to the doctor, to the airport. You're taking somebody somewhere. You're taking something somewhere. Llevar by itself gets a number of meanings, but it has that take idea. So literally, you are carrying a chunk of time doing something. You're carrying this over, meaning it gives it a very rolling feel. You have, but in English needs have been doing, have been doing. And the doing is going to change too. You're right. Have been cooking, have been uh, uh, have been stocking, have been buying, uh, you know, have been going to school, have been studying. We're going to have a whole bunch of different things there. But the good part is llevar is a very, very regular verb. So you can predict how you conjugate it. Llevo, llevas, llevando salud. Llevamos, llevan. Okay. Ejemplos con llevar. Examples con llevar. Some examples there? Eso sí or no? Okay,
I'll
Jean.
try one.
Yeah, you can do Andrew. Andrew can go first. And then
Andrew
I'll go
first
after.
and then Jean. Okay.
Llevo 20 minutos caminito pizza.
Llevo 20 minutos. Next verb.
Caminito.
Caminando?
Caminando.
Caminando. Caminando. I've been walking for 20 minutes. Sí, bien. Llevo 20 minutos caminando. I've been walking for 20 minutes. You tell somebody how long you've been on that exercise, that little jaunt, right? Llevo 20 minutos caminando. Bien. ¿Otro ejemplo, Andrés, o no? No. Okay, bien. Jean.
Sure. It always sounds weird to me to put the time in the middle.
It
That's
does.
my first
And
clarifier,
that
but
is
yeah.
okay. Don't think you are weird to have that feeling.
Yeah.
That is a normal reaction, but that
Yeah.
is the most natural word order for them.
So I'll try. So I had llevo 2 horas trabajando en mi jardín.
Bien. Llevo 2 horas trabajando en mi jardín. I've been working in my
Llevo.
garden for 2 hours. Eso,
Sí.
exacto. Bien.
Sí. And then the next one I have, it's longer. So, but
Está
I
bien,
did
that's okay.
I said el maestro. Is it lleve for el maestro?
Lleva.
Lleva, sorry, lleva.
Lleva.
So, and I used ora again. Okay. El maestro lleva muchas horas aprender información en su campo de estudio. So,
Okay.
but I didn't know if it's aprenderse.
Okay. No, but we're going to change that aprender
Okay.
segment a
Okay.
little bit.
Okay.
El maestro lleva ¿cuánto tiempo? How much time?
Muchas horas.
Muchas
Yeah, I just
horas.
said muchas
Okay,
horas.
and it can be a vague thing like muchas horas
Yeah.
too. Okay. El maestro lleva muchas horas aprendiendo. Here's the key
Learning.
thing.
Okay.
Aprendiendo, learning. El maestro lleva muchas horas aprendiendo
Información. I said
la
information.
información.
Yeah. In his
Sí.
field or whatever. Yeah.
En su campo, in his field.
En
Sí,
su campo,
en su
yeah.
campo. Campo can mean a physical field. It can also mean, a thematic field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sí.
Yeah.
Bien, perfecto. But we do want aprendiendo, right? We need that ando or yendo, not not an infinitive. Okay.
But is there, I guess my question is with aprender, is there ever a say on the end, like I'm learning myself or not?
You'll only hear that used. You might hear aprender used reflexively, but here's what it will mean. It will mean one learns. For example, meaning any old Tom, Dick, or Harry. Okay, por ejemplo, se aprende el alfabeto en kinder. You learn the alphabet in kindergarten.
Sure.
Any old you, see? O se aprende a manejar un auto en la adolescencia. You learn to drive a car during your adolescent years.
Okay.
Meaning
So it's a more
any old-
general, yeah, more
Right.
general meaning. Okay.
Aprender is that se aprende is kind of like the se ve. It looks like se ve, like from your video, or se aprende, one learns. Se with a verb can be reflexive, but there really any verb, literally 100% of the verbs, well, nothing is 100%. Most of the verbs, 99% of the verbs, when they're used with a se, it might make it impersonal, like that idea of on a late night commercial on TV, se habla español, Spanish is spoken here, meaning somebody in the office does this, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, se vende, you see a sign on in a window on a house or an office, se vende, for sale, or se alquila or se renta, for rent.
Mhm.
Okay. We often that say it is a reflexive pronoun, but it is often used in kind of a passive sense to say anybody. This is just being done. See, but aprender in the sense that you want to use it is just aprender. It will
Aprender,
not be
right.
reflexive.
And
Okay?
we'd use it with the yendo in the
With a yendo.
in the sentence I set up. Okay.
El maestro lleva muchas horas aprendiendo. There's your core.
Mhm.
Lleva muchas horas aprendiendo. Yeah, not aprender. Bien. Okay, and that's why that was essential to fit that in, because this structure is hard. Otros ejemplos con llevar, chunk of time, and an ando yendo. Any other examples?
Not for me, no.
No? Okay. You know what? You're gonna hate me for this, but I want everybody to come with an example of llevar and a time. Make sure you come with one example of that, because this is super common. This is something that impresses the socks off of people because they know it's a structure that most beginner people don't learn, but it's really, really common to say, if somebody wants to tell, you walk up, you get in line behind somebody, you're waiting at a pharmacy or you're waiting at the deli, yeah, that have the infamous long lines. You're at the deli and you have to get the little ticket with,
Okay.
the number.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So a question on that. I know in the movie they then threw in the fact that you can put scene in there as well for the opposites.
Yes.
And can we talk about that next time
We're going
too?
to talk about that next week because
Okay.
that becomes a bigger question. There was
Yeah,
too
it
much
was,
to lay
yeah.
on you,
Good.
and it's like, but why? But why? We'll look at that next week. So I
Yeah.
want everybody to come with a
I had
positive.
questions right there.
Yeah.
Hard to see it, but I was like,
Using
what?
using llevar with sin, twist it gives it a negative, it brings in a negative, meaning something hasn't in fact happened. Okay, so we'll talk about that next week because this was too much for us to get done in our time today. But I want everybody to bring one example with llevar, an affirmative one, not with the scene, but yeah,
Okay.
with the ando yendo, because that is a tough thing for English speakers to string, but it's super common. So, like I said, you're in that line at the deli or in the pharmacy, and the guy in front of you is frustrated and he turns around and he says, Llevo 20 minutos esperando, right?
Mhm.
He is not going to say, I am waiting here for 20 minutes. He's going to say it that way. Chances are like 90% chance he's going to say it as
Llevo.
Llevo 20 minutos. The way I learned this to make it more natural for myself was I would tell myself, my brain in English, I'd switch into my English speaking wired brain and say, I carry on doing this.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a very formal thing. Yeah, it's very kind of almost a British sounding expression, carry on doing it. But that is the idea. You carry on doing it. Llevo 20 minutos haciendo la cola. I've been standing in line for 20 minutes. So come with an example of that. And we'll pick up, and we've only gotten through half of these. We're going to do the scene thing. Yeah, we're going to do that. I am going to give you, however, a new listening comprehension, something different that will be not grammar, just storytelling. And if there's anything from what we did this week that you say, I didn't quite get this, or can you give me more examples or whatever, we'll do that. So we can backtrack a little if you need to. I want to start with llevar again, and we'll explain the scene part next week. And then we'll continue with the rest of your examples. ¿Todo bien? All good?
Okay.
Okay. Bien. Gracias por participar. Thanks for bringing things. You know what? They just needed little tweaks here and there. And that's the way we learn. We have to make some little stumbles, and not everything is stumble. A lot of successes. So, muchas gracias por participar.
Great.
Y nos vemos la próxima semana, la semana que viene. ¿Sí? ¿Bien?
Sí.
Bien.
Excelente. Sí, espero que
Gracias.
muy buena
Gracias.
semana. Have a really good week, everybody.